record. Hello again. Welcome back.
Hi.
It's Neil Gavin here, and it's
Rachel Burnham here.
we're doing a joint piece with regards to the future of virtual reality and its impact on learning. It's more about the future of learning being impacted by VR. I hope you've been able to read some of the blogs. I hope you were able to join us on our first little video piece where we talked about some of our own experiences. I think we want to start looking more towards the future now. And if you remember that at the end of our last piece, we left you with this sketch note, beautiful sketch note by Rachel. And Rachel, I think we want to just look at how we're going forward from here.
Yeah, so what this was showing was the range of ways that virtual reality can be used, and how the type of technology and the degree of immersion makes a difference to how it can be used. So we've got this range running through this, from a passive, perhaps just watching something, through something that gets you a little bit involved, there's some opportunities for interaction, right through to that fully immersive experience. And it's worth thinking about, when you're thinking about how to use VR, thinking about what can really add value, what can really meet the needs of your organization, really help to impact performance within your workplace. So it's about choosing appropriately from within that range.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think there's a danger with, like with all of these things, that this is potentially the new shiny. It's the current favorite buzzword. And there's a tendency to want to rush into these things. And as is always the case, that can lend itself to being done badly. If you think in terms of e-learning and how everybody rushed towards that, and so much of it was done badly and so much damage was done by putting people off as a result of that. We want to avoid that sort of thing with this.
Yeah.
So, and that was partly why we were doing this research ourselves, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, one of my experiences was about using a piece of VR, which for me was a poor use of VR. It was a rather passive approach in which we were observing an interaction between two parties, and then they were receiving some coaching on it. So it was at the completely passive end. And for me, there was no real benefit to that being done in a VR approach. A video would have been as effective and probably would have been much more cost effective. It would have been a much cheaper option. Whereas there are some of the 360 completely passive experiences that still can be very powerful. So for example, like you, I had to go at using this app that gives you the experience for a few minutes of what it's like to be autistic. And I can imagine that being a very powerful experience set in the broader context, where you get to then talk with people, share your experiences, link it to things that people who are affected by autism are sharing. And in that context, you could get a lot of impact. So just because something is at the more passive end of VR doesn't mean to say it isn't a good use of VR, but it's about thinking very carefully about what's going to be most appropriate.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point there, Rachel. I think there's a tendency to think that it's a one-stop shop. It's only got one potential use. And I think, again, like all of these things, we need to, as learning and development professionals, give some thought and consideration to where it integrates into a learning program, or where it can be part of the learning experience. It should never be seen as the only solution. I was just thinking back to what you were saying there about that person-to-person interaction might have been that much more engaging from a 3D or a 360 immersive experience if one had been in the position of the individual talking to the other individual. And experiencing the face-to-face and then being able to swap views round and experience it from the other person's perspective, rather than that just observational thing. So I think there might be something there that's worth thinking about as well.
Yes, I think there's great opportunities for using virtual reality where you need to practice a skill, and where there's benefit in having the opportunity to practice risk-free and perhaps without using up costly resources, and where you can make mistakes and actually learn from those mistakes without the risks that come with those mistakes. So I think that lends itself to some of the health and safety uses, some of the operating equipment and repairing equipment uses. I think there's lots of potential there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But another thing, and I love this phrase that I think it came through from Elliot Macy, who talked about the part that VR can play in storytelling. And he says it's a bit like storytelling on steroids.
Yes.
So because you're immersed in the experience, rather than just hearing somebody tell about a particular experience, you're living through it yourself, and therefore it has so much more impact. So it's a great phrase, that storytelling on steroids.
Absolutely. It's going for that walk literally in that other person's shoes, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And or going somewhere that you couldn't go, maybe getting to go, underwater, or to another part of the world where it wouldn't be cost effective to do that, but it can give you that taste, that feel of what it's like, and therefore help to understand and appreciate another person's experience.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that you touch on that about the storytelling, because one of the things that I've noticed is the surprising, well, maybe it's not so surprising, but the uptake, particularly in the early education and in generally education sector, where again, the availability of the cheap entry-level headset, like the cardboard, which does work for other people. I think it was just me had an unfortunate experience. But I've seen various clips and photographs of children around the world using the Google Cardboard headset to travel the world, to go on school outings to museums, to go and walk around the Eiffel Tower in Paris with Google Street View. And I think we have to remember that there's a couple of things here. One, it maintains the element of fun that will engage people enormously, and you can just see children get totally carried away with this. So we mustn't forget the fun element, and maybe some of that's what's missing a little bit in the grown-up, if you like, learning and development side of things. Maybe we should be focusing on the fun of the experience, but equally, those children, those young people, will be coming into the workplace in no time at all. And if they're growing up with these experiences as part of their education, just as they're already doing with technology and Alexa and Amazon Echo and things like that, they're going to be expecting this sort of thing in the workplace, in their learning and development. So I think it's well worth us bearing that in mind, that we can be looking to the education sector if you want some ideas about the sorts of things that you could be doing just to socialize and raise interest in virtual reality before you start to use it. Then you could be looking to the education sector, I'd suggest, as a route in. But it's not all roses, is it, Rachel?
No, there's some downsides as well. So as well as these great possibilities, there's also some downsides. So obviously there's cost. So it's thinking about where is it going to be worthwhile investing. And particularly if you're going for the more immersive approaches, then it does mean investing not just in the physical kit, but also in the software and probably in the creation of bespoke VR experiences to suit the particular needs of your organization and the particular tasks and context that your people would be learning about. I think another downside is actually that not all VR experiences are positive, as I experienced and I shared last time. I've had some bad experiences, and one of those was having a go at driving a forklift truck in VR, and it was so wobbly that actually it triggered motion sickness with me, and actually gave me a migraine which took me out for about 6 hours. So whilst most of my VR experiences have been exceptionally good, I actually have had a poor experience as well. So this is something I know that the developers are working really hard to cut out, but you do need to think about carefully when you're making decisions around this area.
Very good point. We've just got time to quickly think about the future now, Rachel.
Yes.
And I think you wanted to touch on virtual reality versus augmented reality.
Yes, I think virtual reality technology at the moment is a little bit more advanced for use in learning and development at this moment in time, but it is probably only useful in certain contexts. AR technology is fast developing, and there's quite a lot of commentators are saying, well, there's going to be a lot more opportunities for using AR in the workplace as performance support and therefore as part of learning and development. And that could be in a much wider range of sources. So augmented reality, where you get some information coming from your computer, from your tablet, from your mobile phone, and it's advising you and adding to what you're already seeing in real life. So I think there's lots of excitement there.
Yeah, so it overlays what you're already seeing on your
Yes.
phone or your tablet, doesn't it? Yeah, interesting you say that, because one of the things I've noticed is most of the apps, most of the kit that people are using at the minute, it's all Android based.
Yes.
Apple does not really show up, and that was one of the things I struggled with in first starting out with the cardboard, was that I have an iPhone, and Apple don't appear to do a great deal in that space. But interestingly, Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple, has said just recently, and I refer to it in the blog and on the resource sheet, that he sees AR as being the next big thing, almost as big as the smartphone in itself. So that may give us an indication of where Apple are going to position themselves in the VR, AR discussion and debate. And from a learning perspective, I think it would behove us again just to keep an eye on Apple, because they've got a vast and loyal customer base, and their reputation for innovation is huge. So that's been one of my learning points. Keep an eye on Apple, because I think they're going to make a big difference and make AR a big contender, and maybe level the playing field a little bit. Rachel, we're getting close on time. I just want to say thank you ever so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed our co-researching and our co-creation of these pieces and the blogging. I hope for anybody that's taken the time to watch our videos, to read the blogs, that they've got some use out of it. Where can people get hold of you, make contact with you, Rachel?
Probably the easiest way is through Twitter. I'm at Burnham L&D, and I also write a blog, L&D Matters. So both of those are good ways to reach me.
Fantastic, thank you. You can get me at Neil Gavin UK, or one word. We're getting very close to time up. Thanks ever so much, Rachel. Thanks very much. We'll no doubt speak again soon.
Bye for now.
Bye.